Welcome back for another video. Let's get straight into it for this week's experts video. As we look at the players the top managers in the world are buying and selling, captaincy this week, the experts team and all the rest. So kicking the video off with the usual manager highlight. Honourable mention to last Gameweek's biggest score of 75 points, which was FPL Spaceman. At the top of the experts league, Asghar Borry's holding firm with an incredible overall rank of 3.7k after getting 60 points last Gameweek. Did you manage to beat the experts' average score of 51? They're gradually climbing the ranks now after a difficult start for many. We've got 10 managers in the top 100k at the moment. So what are they doing with their transfers this week then? 45% are rolling the transfer, 38% making one transfer, 15% making two, and just 2 are making 3 moves. There's 5 experts in total taking a -4 hit this week to fix their teams up, no chips active. Some have actually played an incredibly patient game with their transfers this season. Abdullah's 300k and he's made the fewest transfers, just 4 all season, and he's sitting on 5 roll transfers as well with that rank. Easier said than done of course, and you really have to nail your picks to get into the groove of rolling. Fair play if any of you have managed to bank 4 or 5 transfers. So the big question is, where is the game shifting this week? Who are they buying and selling? I've made a new improvement to this page which should make the data a bit more digestible. All the players have now got positions by their name basically. And at the very top this week it's Cunha, who 17% have bought, which means Calvert-Lewin, unsurprisingly the most sold, 23% have dropped him. So many managers duped by that promise shown in Game Week 3 and 4 when he got 2 goals and an assist. He hasn't scored or assisted in 6 games since. To add salt to the wound, his non-penalty XG over those last 6 is higher than Wood's. He's got 6 goals in his last 6. 54.5% goal conversion over that run is highest in the league by Wood as well. However, just 2% are actually buying Wood this week. It is Newcastle, Arsenal, Ipswich and Man City, so there's only really 2 games that you'd feel happy about starting him in. But if you've got the rotation players, then perhaps he works. Though beyond that, the fixtures don't get much better, very mixed. Cunha really ticks all the boxes. He's relatively cheap, good underlying data. And if we pull up the fixture ticker tool on FPL.page and sort by the next 8 game weeks, Wolves sit top of the table with the best run of all games, starting with Southampton home in Game Week 11. So last week, the Haaland to Salah switch was a huge success. Are any experts going for it this week? 8% are selling Haaland, 9% are buying Salah. And there's one manager that's getting to Salah without selling Haaland. They're selling Trent and Eze, which makes sense. One of the hardest skills in FPL is timing it right, when to hop on and off players. Like if you started this season without Haaland and then you bought him after that ridiculous start, then you did the exact opposite of what you want to do there. Picking him when the form dropped off basically, which no one saw coming, let's be honest. And you could argue luck plays a massive part there. It wasn't until Game Week 8 that Salah and Palmer began moving ahead of points, which begs the question, is Haaland really worth 15.3 mil when other cheaper assets are outscoring him? 9% have opted for Strand Larsen over Cunha. In some cases that's for budget reasons. Calvert-Lewin to Cunha requires 0.8 mil in the bank, whereas Strand Larsen requires no extra money as he's only 5.6 mil. So comparing their data side by side, who's better, Cunha or Strand Larsen? Well, Cunha's got 2.12 XGI to Strand Larsen's 1.77. Cunha's taken 16 shots this season to his 9, and he's created 9 big chances to Larsen's 0. Though Larsen does have a slightly better XG over the season, so he's undeniably a solid pick, and nearly trails Cunha by 4 points currently. The expectation, which I think is fair, is Cunha will score more points a longer term, but you never know with FPL. Is it time to turn our attention to Isak then? Starting to rise in popularity after 3 goals on the bounce in all competitions. 8.3 mil is steep, but let's not forget last season he got 21 goals, 4 assists, he started 27 games. Fixtures ahead include West Ham home, Leicester home and Ipswich away. The third most sold player is actually Rico Lewis, who of course was benched last game week, and he started midweek in the Champions League while Walker was rested. So many have called the security of his starts into serious question now, as the next few games could suit Walker's pace more, so if we're being realistic with ourselves, it would be a massive surprise if Lewis started all of the next 3. 8 Norris, the most bought defender, 8% have picked him up. Some other defenders here include Dallo, Mazraoui, Pedro Porro and Vardiol. 6% are selling Rodgers before the Liverpool game, who did come off after a knock last game, but he's fine. He did start midweek in the Champions League. Villa actually lost 1-0 to Club Brugge. He played 66 minutes that match. So just 2 managers have sold Robertson, and if you still got him, it could be time to get rid after his second benching in 4 league games last weekend. Simicast has been getting the starts ahead of him. Eze is out injured till Game Week 12 potentially, so 4% have turned to Semenyo this week. And as we saw, Bournemouth's second on the fixture ticker chart earlier, and his 42 shots taken this season can only be beaten by Haaland's 48. Moving on to captaincy then, and it's probably the most divided it's been all season, which is, I guess, exciting and scary. Bigger rank gains on the table this week if you get it right. So we've got exactly 50% on Salah, who's top of the table. And then it's 28% going for Haaland, 9% Solanke, 7% Bruno, 4% Son, and then Palmer and Bumo captained by one each. It has been a contrasting week for Salah and Haaland. Liverpool winning last weekend, Man City losing. Salah with 2 assists as Liverpool went on to beat Leverkusen 4-0 in the Champions League, while Man City fell to Sporting 4-1, including a missed penalty by Haaland. Is this the week Haaland and City bounce back, or is it time to cut our losses? So with 9% going for Solanke, there's a genuine case to be made for him after that 16-pointer last game week, home to Ipswich as well. In fact, pulling up FPL review projections, after Salah, who's on 7.2 points, it is Solanke in second with 6.5. Son is obviously subject to his minutes. I've got him on 75 here as a best guess. If he makes it to 80 minutes, then he actually moves up to second place. Now, of course, last game week, Son only played 55 minutes before coming off on his return from injury for them. I can imagine the comments now after seeing 7% of captain of Bruno, but in fairness, it's an incredible fixture home to Leicester. I mean, we've got to expect a bounce as well following Ten Hag's departure. Many players here could be fighting for their spot in the team as well, so the likes of Garnacho could really show up in a big way this week. Though of course Bruno's nailed regardless. In fairness, Bruno's 6 projected points this week was just 0.1 behind Haaland on FPL review, so I mean 0.1 is effectively just noise in the data, so perhaps he is a shout for captaincy. Let us know in the comments who your captain is going to be and why. Moving on to the experts team for Gameweek 11, and there's been a big shake up to the team this week. The team is Flecken, Trent, Aït-Nouri, Gabriel, Mbeumo, Palmer, Salah, Semenyo, Raul, Cunha and Solanke. So Haaland's dropped out of the team just barely, and in comes Salah, and Flecken's also in over Raya, and Calvert-Lewin's dropped out for Cunha as well. 9 home fixtures in the team this week, looking really well set up. I've made some more improvements to this segment as well, by the way. The player list now has positions by every name as well. So looking down that list, Salah's 65% owned, Haaland's 61%, so it's very close, but still barely enough for Haaland to drop out of the team. It might be the highest we've ever had a player on the list with a negative difference. Haaland 61% owned among the experts, but 69% overall. Flecken just 4% ahead of Raya as well, so that's a very close one, but he's in the team now. If you're not familiar with how this segment works, the experts team is basically the template team, so it's the 15 most owned players among the hundreds of managers that get involved in this series, keeping it within budget. If money was no object, then Haaland would be in over Jimenez due to ownership, but that's not happening. This team's actually got about 3 mil in the bank as well, which goes to show how much the money spreads around if you don't have Haaland. Therefore, it's Salah captain this week and Solanke vice. Pedro Porro and Vardy are the 2 other players with a negative difference on the list here. So in essence, the overall player base likes them more than the experts do, same for Haaland. Hopefully you like the new changes this week. It takes more time to do, but I think the data is more digestible this way and easier to use. So that's going to be on every video moving forwards. Make sure you're subscribed. So, final segment. Here's the experts' final thoughts and tips for Gameweek 11. This is what they had to say this week. Andrew Neve sold Trent and Eze for Van den Berg and Salah, and he says, I've taken my first hit of the season and brought Salah in to protect my rank. I've opted to go really light at the back to accommodate Salah, Haaland and Palmer. Morton Gams Edison says, I think the big question this week is whether Man City are going through a blip or are genuinely going to have a bad season. I think the international break's coming up at the perfect time for Pep. It gives him a while to get key assets back from injury and working on stopping the rot. Conkers Bonkers says, I'll be hitting the wildcard button in Gameweek 12, so I've gone for 2 upside transfers in this week, Cunha and Pedro Porro in for Watkins and Saliba. As for captain this week, he's currently on Salah, but I'm really tempted by Big Dom Solanke at home to Ipswich. He can't haul 2 weeks in a row, can he? Jason Fleming says, whilst Haaland's underlying data remains among the strongest in the league, City look absolutely shot for confidence at the minute, and Salah, Palmer and Saka all look much more appealing captaincy options in the coming weeks. Haaland may very well come good against Brighton this week, but releasing the funds allow this ideal 3-man in midfield, as well as my preferred team structure going forward. Matt Brooks makes a valid point on selling Haaland, considering moving Haaland on, but the challenge will be once he's gone, it's going to be very difficult to get him back, at least until the second wildcard, so it will be a big call. FPL Tony, the Man City leaker himself, is keeping Haaland and he's actually captaining him as well as a Salah non-owner, so I guess that's a bit reassuring, and he says, I'm rolling my free transfer, mini wildcard coming after the international break. And lastly, Hey FPL says, Error 404, robot rebooting. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, drop it a like and make sure you're subscribing. See you soon for the next one.